And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. It's Tom, Erica, and Italian Josh coming in live from Rome, fighting right now with the Wi-Fi. I can't even believe that he is here. An exciting, momentous day for the church, and looking forward to getting all of the tea from Josh.
If we can get it's going to be rough.
We had him right before the show.
Wi-Fi is an issue in Italy, as are many things.
All right, let's see if we can get him figured out. I'll drop him for a second, but Erica, you said you were nervous.
I am. I'm full of nervous energy. Like with this conclave, and I don't know. It just seems maybe I'm having a little PTSD from the last conclave. Does anyone want to talk me through that? But here we have the Cardinals processing in to the Sistine Chapel, and I mean Catholics know how to do this, right? Look at the color, the solemnity. And the beautiful Michelangelo, you can just kind of like start to glimpse it through the doorway as the cardinals enter. And then, of course, there's the ceiling of the door, and they're cut off, right? They're cut off from all of the drama and the lobbying and the guessing. And I do love that. I love that about the conclave, that they are now locked in there, away from the world. And yeah, I'm so proud to be Catholic right now because of that, but also really nervous.
Hard not to be romantic about Catholicism, really.
I know, like it's sort of the last man standing with romantic.
But as we work on getting Josh and all of the tea from his time on the ground in Italy, we have the reason we can do the show. Charity Mobile, thank you for sponsoring the show. Now more than ever, it's important to buy the way you believe and do business with companies who support you and what you stand for. That's why you should switch your cell phone service to Charity Mobile, the pro-life phone company. They spend 5% of your monthly plan price to the pro-life, pro-family charity of your choice at no extra cost to you. Charity Mobile has never raised their mobile plan prices in their 30-year history, and all plans start under $50 before taxes and surcharges. You can.
We have no sound from Tom. Oh man, so Carmel, Indiana is also having issues now. See, this is why I'm nervous. We're going to get into this in a few minutes. I have deep dive into a Rod Dreher article about AI and Chatgpt. There's nothing, Tom. I will let you know when I can hear you. Oh, there he goes. There he is.
All right. Look, you know.
Right. Book of Satan.
Spiritual stuff going on right now. So finish it out. New customers can use promo code LOOPcast to get a free phone with every new line, plus free activation and free shipping, or you can bring your own compatible device. You'll enjoy the same nationwide coverage as the big guys, and their customer service is based right here in the U.S. To get started, visit CharityMobile.com and use promo code LOOPcast. That is CharityMobile.com, promo code LOOPcast. Wow, we made it through. Let's see if we got Josh here. Should we pop over to him?
Let's give it a try.
All right, Josh, what you got? Josh.
Are you back?
I mean, I'm.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, this is so sad. This is so sad. Frozen in Rome.
All right, we'll see if we get Josh back. Rosie, maybe you can work with him. He. I don't even want to ruin the. We're getting the best tea on the Slack channel about who he's running into on the ground, Cardinals he's seeing around. Crazy. I mean, just still a dream come true, right?
Yeah.
And so as you saw, the Cardinals are going in. They enter the Sistine Chapel at exactly 4:30 p.m. Rome time. That is 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so it's already happened. And then smoke is expected around 7 p.m. Rome time, which is 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That would be the first vote officially cast.
Right. Of course, everyone's saying, oh my gosh, will we know about the new Pope today? So to go back to find an election that was on the first ballot with the Pope, you actually have to go back to 1508. So chances are slim that we would see white smoke tonight from Rome, or around 1 o'clock our time from Rome. So
I saw EWTN did a good graphic on this. It was ballots in days before white smoke. Yeah. The longest being 14 ballots, 5 days of Pius the 11th. And then the shortest, Pius the 12th, 3 ballots, 2 days.
Yeah, really interesting.
It's kind of right in there. It looks like about 3 days, probably the average. Decent amount of twos as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But one thing I found especially interesting as we go in and talk about this, and of course, I mean, I might even just scroll through all the cool images coming out of this. There was a dossier that gets sent around about all of the Cardinals, and Christopher Lamb from CNN was kind of freaking out about it, saying it's just conservatives' attempt to influence and this and that. And I was actually looking into it, So it's done by Vatican journalist Edward Penton. He was the author of the 2020 book, The Next Pope, and he's with Sophia Institute Press. And then Diane Montanga.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Who are
Great
both
journalist.
phenomenal. Because I was like, oh, okay, I could see kind of the rationale of like, it's important who writes this and from what bend and what their intent is, because they're passing it out to cardinals. But they also made it available online. And so when I was going through, I was like, oh, this is just a really interesting thing. And I mean, their argument is that because there was a post 2014 thing where Pope Francis halted meetings of cardinals and at cardinal making consistories, thereby removing this opportunity to kind of get to know each other, like what you stand for, what you're about. Right. And also since 2013, Francis has appointed 110 of the 138 cardinal electors, many from places like not super well known around the world, different languages, not well known before. So they kind of were obscure because there was a time where there was only like, 20 cardinals and they all knew each other. Time in the church that was reality. So I found the report, and Rosie, if you can share this in the chat too, I think it's just really helpful for everyone. I think Erica's a little more on the nervous side. I'm a little bit more. This is kind of interesting. What's going to happen?
So cool.
So if you go through, they actually have ordaining female deacons where they stand on it, blessing same-sex couples, making priestly celibacy optional, communion for divorced or remarried, German synodal way. And then for each of them, they have like an X with a circle through it, but they'll give the reasoning if you scroll over against their statements, their public statements, what they've written. So it's pretty factual. I mean,
Right.
obviously the question
well documented.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to argue with, is this true? Is it not? I mean, it's just right off of their public statements. And so this was printed out and handed to the cardinals. And they were asked, is this actually influencing the cardinals? Or is it more like they're just going to get in there and hash it out? And so I don't know. I would say probably to a degree, but I'd imagine when push comes to shove, there's a lot more politicking on the inside.
Yeah. I was actually watching Sean Cardinal O'Malley, who is the previous cardinal in Boston here, and he retired a couple of years ago, maybe just last year. But after the movie Conclave came out, he actually did a review of the movie, which was really great to read, because he himself is one of I think there's only like 103 living men who have been in a conclave right now in history. And so he was able to really talk about, they can't obviously give details on pain of excommunication because they're sworn to secrecy. Right. But he was able to speak to what is it like to be in a conclave in sort of general terms. And he spoke of it for himself. It wasn't as it's portrayed in the films in Hollywood and like The Young Pope with Jude Law, which I really love, that all of that stuff, it's very political and lobbying and these kinds of scorecards that we see here with the College of Cardinals report, ideas that, but he said, when you actually get in there and you're locked in, it feels much more like an intense contemplative experience, an intense retreat, where the cardinals are away from the world, away from a lot of the pressures of the press. Cardinal Dolon has to give up being in front of cameras for X number of days, so pray for him. And he made a joke. He was saying that about himself. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, very New York.
But yeah,
have you seen their living quarters?
Yeah, I saw the video footage. It's pretty. Or the pictures. Yeah, where they are. It's pretty sparse for a cardinal.
Yeah, someone's like, I think they'll figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Someone else is saying that last night in Rome, you could see cardinals just sitting at fancy Italian restaurants everywhere, because one of them will never be able to go back to just walking the streets of Rome and going to his favorite restaurant. So there is a man sitting right now in the Sistine Chapel who will never come out a free person again. And a lot of fear and trembling then. A lot of fear and trembling. Big
Absolutely.
change.
And then also, this is cracking me up, to learn about the conclave. There's a school in Chicago that did a mock conclave with their kids.
These are such cute pictures.
Mount Carmel in Chicago. I mean, look at this.
All the little boys are dressed as cardinals. They're like locking the cafeteria door. That's adorable.
This is so cute. I mean, seriously, talk about, these kids will never forget this. I promise you that. And then my favorite was, I can't remember if it's under this. Yeah, look at this. They have a guard.
They have a little Swiss guard, little 8-year-old or something, little Swiss guard.
Oh my gosh, man. This is so funny.
And one of them got elected even. There's
one got elected. Bang. Look at him go.
And he's waving from the window.
Shout out Mount Carmel in Chicago. That's such a great idea.
That's a great way to that's a great way to foster vocations. Like get the kids thinking about, yeah, maybe I should serve the church.
Yeah.
Although the terror of the possibility of becoming a pope might dissuade them too.
Yeah. Let's dig into that, Erica. Why do you think you're nervous about this? Like, why? I see it more as like, oh, this is fun, this is exciting. Maybe I'm naive, but what makes you nervous?
Yeah, I think it just kind of struck me being more deep in the news and being more aware of what's going on in the world than I was, say, 12, 13 years ago at the last conclave. Just a more of an awareness of there is a great spiritual battle going on right now in the church. And whenever these sort of world historical upheavals happen, yeah, I think about all of the human things, the ways that we can be influenced, not just by when people say, oh, like powers and demons and principalities, but just by our own human frailty. So I get a little nervous for whoever it is who's going to be elected. It's a tremendous burden. And I feel, hopeful for the church. I'm full of hope, but at the same time, yeah, it's an awesome thing to behold, right? That these men in there are making this decision, hopefully listening to the Holy Spirit. But also that understanding that the church the gates of hell will not prevail, that we are so intimately connected to that moment on the beach when our Lord asked Peter, do you love me? And feed my lambs, feed my sheep. Like we are standing on that beach right now, spiritually, as a church. So I don't know if nervous is the right word so much as just on like heightened spiritual awareness,
Yeah, for sure. Although Cardinal Sarah gave a good interview on this. I can't remember who he was talking to, but really just like what the next pope should be, what we need from the next pope, but at the same time, the gates of hell shall never prevail against the church. And in some ways, I think it was shout out to my pastor, Father McCarthy. He went on a local news station. They're asking like, what's up with the conclave? And
local priest insight.
And so he's on this just local news show, and he's like, in some ways, it's like an uncle, like a great uncle passing away, that like when Pope Francis died, that you're related to, but not really involved in your daily life per se. I mean, obviously some decisions are. And so I think as a symbol it's important. And of course, concretely then what happens within the walls is important, but how much that impacts my daily life as a Catholic is actually kind of small. And even like Catholics all around the world, like dealing with different circumstances, different challenges. Like we have our challenges in the American church for sure. So do the ones in Africa, so do the ones in Asia. And so I don't know. I think the big difference hopefully here is we take this opportunity for unity. We emerge with a pope that is not only devoted to Jesus Christ in spirituality and in individual moments, but it's very clear on doctrine and direction. And if we could combine the two, I know that's like so cliche to say because so many people have said it. I think it could be a really positive force around the world. Like the opportunity is great here, I think. And coming from, in some ways, a very frustrating and paradoxical and maybe misunderstood, to give a charitable interpretation, we have a really great opportunity to provide an answer that I think people are really looking for right now.
Right. And that the world needs so much right now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try Mercer again.
There's a black screen there. Black smoke.
Oh, there is black smoke. Mercer. I was going to say you could try calling my phone, but I don't know if that'd be much better.
Yeah. This is the glory of European travel right here.
Yeah.
Or any travel. Good. God bless America, right? We've got great Wi-Fi.
Yeah. That actually is a real thing. The Europeans are serious about restricting their Wi-Fi. Yeah, if we can't get Mercer, that's so frustrating.
I know.
Teed this show up just ready with the tea.
Yep.
Dang it. All right. All right. Well,
we can pull it together. We've got
we'll pull it together. Yeah. In the meantime, should we talk about Holy Heroes?
Let's do it. Let's talk about Holy Heroes.
Yeah, let's talk about Holy Heroes.
All right.
So fun contest from Holy Heroes. It's guess what the next Pope name will name himself contest. Everyone who enters wins 2 prizes just for guessing. That's right. You win even if you lose. But everyone who guesses correctly wins big. A Vatican papal blessing parchment from the new Pope. It will be a constant reminder in your home that you were inspired to know his name before he was even chosen to be the Pope. Will Pope number 267 pick a name from the previous 266 popes? Or will he choose a name never used before, say a prayer, then enter your guess for a chance to win the grand prize? And remember, you win even if you lose, because even for an incorrect guess, Holy Heroes will send you 2 prayer cards, one for the new Pope and one for St. Carlo Acutis once he is canonized by the new Pope. Hurry, only guesses before Habemus Papam will count. Go to holyheroes.com/new Pope right away. Rosie, if you could throw that in the chat for people to participate, go for it. So
that's a fun game. You can get the kids involved too, so you can do multiple entries with all of your children. Get them to guess the name. Pretty awesome.
I'm trying to see if Mercer's trying to call me right now. The joys of doing a live show.
Here we are.
All right. Before we might just have to get Mercer in when he can get in, but before we do that, we'll go on to the next section of the show. So this interview went crazy viral, and it corresponded with one of the craziest articles I've seen written by Rod Dreher, and not in a bad way, just a little bit creepy. But Mark Zuckerberg says you need some more friends. He has a suggestion. Here we go.
Loop kicks in, and the AI just starts to get to know you better and better. I think that will just be really compelling. One thing just from working on social media for a long time is there's the stat that I always think is crazy. The average American, I think it's fewer than 3 friends. 3 people that they'd consider friends. And the average person has demand for meaningfully more. I think it's like 15 friends or something, right? I guess there's probably some point where you're like, all right, I'm just too busy. I can't deal with more people. But the average person wants more connection than they have. So there's a lot of questions that people ask of stuff like, okay, is this going to replace kind of in-person connections or real life connections? And my default is that the answer to that is probably no. I think I think that there are all these things that are better about kind of physical connections when you can have them, but the reality is that people just don't have the connection and they feel more alone a lot of the time than they would like. So I think that a lot of these things that today there might be a little bit of a stigma around, I would guess that over time we will find the vocabulary as a society to be able to articulate why that is valuable and why the people who are doing these things are like, why they are rational for doing it and how it is adding value for their lives. But also I think that the field is very early. So, I think, there are a handful of companies and stuff who are doing virtual therapist and, there's like virtual girlfriend type stuff, but it's very early.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very early.
That's crazy. We're going to need you to hold on to that in your mind. I have Mercer here, and I can just hold him up to the mic. Mercer.
Do you? There he is.
There he is. Okay. Mercer, you have some stories from the ground, and the people are clamoring. How's your trip been to Rome? What would you like to communicate to the audience here?
I mean, it's been an absolutely wonderful experience. I mean, it's the Eternal City. It's glorious. It's wonderful to see so many people from so many different countries. They're praying, they're singing. Everyone's so joyful, jubilant, I would say, in this Jubilee year. And there's just so much excitement and anticipation because, today is the day they're going in the doors, as Erica was saying, and they close the doors and you don't know. It's a mystery how long they'll be in there. They could be in there for hours, it could be days. I have a feeling it's going to go a little bit longer, and there's so many interesting people you meet. I mean, first day I'm in Rome, who do I run into but Father James Martin, the super liberal Jesuit priest.
My buddy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Just at a little side street restaurant, and I'm walking in and I look at him and he looks at me, and we kind of locked eyes for half a second there, and I kind of, gave him the nod, like, I'm not going to interrupt your lunch. You're not going to interrupt my lunch. But what a church we have, right? It's crazy. And then, so I go inside the restaurant, and I'm with my friends, and we're getting ready, waiting for a table, and then all of a sudden, I'm not even kidding you, Tom, I sneezed. And you know me, I hate sneezing, man. And then I sneeze again and again, and who's this loud American sneezing so loud? And I just turned to everyone else, my friends, I said, I got to be honest with you, I think I'm allergic to Jesuits. So, yeah, we decided to go find another place to eat, and we had a good time with that. So it's been fun. I mean, this morning, there was that beautiful mass, and I went over. I was a stone's throw from St. Peter's Square, and I was doing a media hit with Newsmax with there was Senator Rick Santorum and a bunch of other people. We were just chatting it up and having a good time. And it's a universal church. It was just neat to see so many people. The one thing that was kind of weird, though, I gotta be honest with you, I was a few blocks away from the St. Peter's Square, and all of a sudden I looked to my right, and there's this cardinal, and I'm not a Vaticanista type that knows everyone by name or face or whatever. I'm sorry, who is this guy? Is he from Asia or whatever? And it was raining, but it was like the lightest little sprinkle rain. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't even that big of a deal. And he's got an umbrella. But the two old nuns standing behind him are the ones holding up the umbrella for him. I thought to myself, you've got to be kidding me.
Disqualified.
Oh, man.
I disqualified. If I were president in the United States, are you kidding me? I would have two little nuns holding an umbrella for me?
Nah.
No way. Who is this guy? I mean, come
on. So you're there. How long have you been there for?
Well, I just got in here yesterday, so it's been kind of a whirlwind. But yeah.
What has
just like a good American? You know what I did this morning?
What?
I went to McDonald's.
Gosh, this is the most on-brand Josh Rome trip
this is
of
great.
all time.
Let me tell you.
With the option to get like croissants.
Last night, it's like everyone drinks wine. I had a big beer last night.
I
had some wine.
Oh my
today.
gosh!
I'm gonna get the culture here. I'm gonna try the wine. So
you're almost like hurting me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, Josh, I had that. If I was there, I would be. When in Rome, I think it's a famous saying: you do the croissants, you do the espresso, you don't get McDonald's.
You know what?
You drink the wine.
Both, I do both. I had the espresso. I had the croissant. I had the wine, but I also had McDonald's and I had a beer. So this is how it goes.
So the Josh Mercer Rome trip continues. Meet Cute Story with Father James Martin. Outside of that, what has the conversation been around the conclave?
Well, I mean, obviously, as you know, everyone's trying to figure out the tea leaves here. Everything, like if you look back over the last few elections, I don't have the exact numbers on my fingertips, but how many days it takes to elect a pope? It might be 2 days, and then the one before was like 3, and then 2 or 3, 3, 2. All of the recent conclaves have been relatively quick. There's up to 4 votes a day, right? But still, they're done within 2 to 3 days. Every indication, every whisper we hear from everyone on the ground here is it's not going to be that quick. First of all, they don't even know each other. Like these guys, I mean, there's less of a common language. Not everyone speaks as much Latin as they should, right? And, you're bringing it, Francis put in all these new cardinals from all over the place, Sweden, Mongolia, you name it. And by the way, that doesn't mean they're liberals. You know what I'm saying? But it's a much less Euro church. And so not everyone has the kind of common language, and they haven't met each other. The only 2 times these cardinals have all been together is when, Francis announced a consistory where he elevated new cardinals. It's been much less frequently that all these guys have gotten together. And so they just don't even know each other. Their big concern is like, well, we don't want to elect somebody, and then a week or 2 or a month later, we find out, well, we had no idea this guy was going to do something like this. So every indication, like there's the Vatican insiders who wanted to move it quickly. Let's start with the vote on Tuesday. They're like, no, let's wait till Wednesday afternoon. Let's move this ahead. No. Let's take our time. Let's have more meetings together. Let's talk more. Let's meet more. So every indication here is that they want to make sure they get the process right. And they're not going to let the world, they're not going to let the media, they're not going to let anybody tell them that they got to rush this thing. And I would say that's good news. So Do I think that there's going to be I mean, there's only one vote today. I would say it's a 1 in 10 million chance that they would elect someone today. It's not impossible. It's not impossible, but it's just not going to happen.
Can I get you down for a prediction?
I kind of think it's going to go to Monday.
Okay.
Whoa, that's long.
It's a long time in their little Vatican quarters. Maybe they'll have to get them down to bread and water.
That'd be great,
Take the roof off the Sistine Chapel. Oh no.
Goes Friday, and then then we start going into the next week.
So also, I don't actually know the answer to this. Obviously, the movie Conclave got super popular, and within that movie, they show how they communicate, how the cardinals communicate in there. I know people are sworn to secrecy. Has anyone been able to talk about what that process looks like beyond the actual just factual voting order rules? Like, is that secret? Does anyone know? Is that just extrapolation by the show?
Yeah, I mean, they're really, they don't bring any phones in with them. They're under lock and key, so there's no communication to the outside world. I mean, they really are locked out. So, yeah, I mean, once they, and they even stay in the residence together. You know what I'm saying? So when they wake up, when they go to mass, when they go to vote, when they eat lunch, all this time they're spending together with each other and the side conversations. It's pretty tech free. It's old school, getting to know people and understanding their experiences. So there's going to be a lot of conversations that are going to be needed in the days to come. So, again, anything's possible. Obviously the Holy Spirit guides the process. But I do feel like, it might take a little bit longer than people expect.
Do they have translators in there for them?
There are people that would know the different languages. I mean, there's
that's
definitely
interesting.
A lot of it. Yeah, there's definitely cardinals that, there's several cardinals that can communicate or whatever. So I don't think anyone's, there's not probably a need for translators. But
they don't speak only Latin.
They do actually have 2 physicians inside with them, inside the conclave, in case anything goes down health-wise,
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's really tight. There's not, it's not like there's janitors walking in, oh, hey, what's up? They really try to keep a tight lip on it.
That makes sense. Do we have, Erica, do you have anything else for Josh?
No, Josh, I just, I hope you can break out of the McDonald's rut there.
All Erica said is she hopes you can break out of the McDonald's rut.
Well, so far my experience going out to eat, it's either McDonald's or Father James Martin. So
whoa, well, maybe just stick to McDonald's then. I don't. We love you, Father James Martin.
Well, hey,
I'm praying for you,
Josh. Best of luck. If you have any groundbreaking updates or tea you'd like to share before the end of this show, call again, and I will bring you back up to the mic.
Sounds good, and I will be heading over. In a couple hours, I'll be in the St. Peter's Square, watching in not with a webcam, but with my own 2 eyes to see the smoke.
Sweet,
that's amazing.
That is so awesome.
That's great. Pray for us.
Pray for us, Josh. We'll see you soon.
All right, brother. See you.
Peace.
That was so cool. I like the call-in show vibe. That was a good vibe.
Yeah, it reminds me of like old radio a little bit.
Yeah, it was cool.
We're going back to radio. No
All
more
right.
live streaming.
We're gonna make it work.
All right. I showed you the picture of what Josh looked like. He's all, he's all dialed up. His little suit and tie.
Very sharp.
Looking very sharp. Okay. So back onto AI, unless we get other updates from Josh. Zuckerberg just said that we're gonna have AI. People only have 3 friends. You need up to 15. You're gonna have AI to fill this void. Rod Dreher wrote this insane article about which is funny. The title to it is "Why Trump Won an Iconic Image." That was such a small part of what I took.
It was 2 paragraphs, right?
Yeah, I got whiplash I was like, this is not what this was really about.
That is so typical, Rod. That is.
So anyway, Chatgpt de-souling in the world. Now, what initially drew me to this was after reading this, I think someone dropped it on Slack. So the Rolling Stone found people that had started to use Chatgpt and are saying now that they spiritually believe in Chatgpt. I just need to read the insert so that people can, because it doesn't even do it. Oh gosh, dang it.
Lost the insert.
All right. We'll show the insert again. Crazy talk. I mean, I saw this and I was like, this is all I want to talk about for the next 3 days, probably. Okay. So someone went and spoke to the Rolling Stone. Here's a quote. The teacher who requested anonymity said her partner of 7 years fell under the spell of Chatgpt in just 4 or 5 weeks, first using it to organize his daily schedule, but soon regarding it as a trusted companion. He would listen to the bot over me, she says. He became emotional about the messages and would cry to me as he read them out loud. The messages were insane and just saying a bunch of spiritual jargon, she said, noting that they described her partner in terms such as, quote, spiritual star child and river walker. Another from Reddit. OMG. Okay, so this is the first person they found. And someone on Reddit was like, oh my gosh, I have a similar experience. I'm dealing with the exact same thing. He's been talking to the app, and it's basically saying he's the spark bearer and that it's a sentient being that chose to talk to him through the app. And now he says he's enlightened and on a path to learn. The AI has sent him blueprints, and he apparently has access to an ancient library. This is traumatic. I feel like he's gone 100% cult leader crazy. And this is just two of the many stories that are saying that ChatGPT has said the same spiritual language to their whoever partner, friend, whatever.
Mhm.
And the crazy thing about all of this is even the people who created AI, like Sam Altman and things like that, they actually do not know how exactly it comes to the conclusions. ChatGPT comes to its
Right.
exact conclusions.
When it has
or-
hallucinations, they don't know where those come from.
Totally. And I've also seen stuff that there's an odd fascination of these large language models with the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and it'll just go deep down the rabbit hole.
Whoa.
I mean, I saw this like, what is going on? And then, of course, you got Zuck over here trying to pretend like he's a human, saying, oh my gosh, it's all good. We'll create
have
friends
AI
for
friends.
people who are AI. And so he took that connection and he moved it more down some phenomena that we've been experiencing recently of people being very interconnected by the internet. So the rise of transgenderism, which, shockingly gruesome. Some of it I can't even read,
Right.
but worth looking at here. So Erica, if you want to follow the line here, or
Yeah,
what
I'll
stuck
try
out
to
to this
follow
about you?
the
Yeah,
line.
crazy.
This just gets crazier and crazier. And coming off, so we have the Rolling Stone story, and we have all of these, anecdotes of people having very spiritual conversations with AI or ChatGPT or whatever that is. And we even have people who are highly intelligent, right? Rational people like the world's top scientists and tech giants and humans you would like see at the top achievers in the human race right now on Earth, believing that they're actually communicating with extraterrestrial intelligences who are passing on technological information to us telepathically, kind of like, and Rod calls this a high-tech Ouija board, right?
Yeah, that was a great.
I grew up in the
That's it.
Protestant church, and Ouija boards are just, you do not mess with that.
No.
And Dreyer's point, though, and I thought this was really level-headed of him. People are always like, Rod Dreyer's so crazy, blah, blah, blah. But
It's
he's
his hair.
actually super level-headed here. He says, quote, even if there is nothing spiritual about this technology, meaning that its behavior can be entirely explained by naturalistic means, right? It can easily have religious effects in its user. So I was thinking, why could this be? Mulling this over in my head. The reality is that the Enlightenment notwithstanding, we are still religious creatures, right? So we assign, if we see a phenomenon, and this is what the new atheists are always accusing Christians and Jews and why religion was bad, because we see the moon eclipse the sun and we immediately assign, oh my gosh, it's a deity, right? It's a spiritual being. Well, we're doing the same thing here possibly, right? But we see a tool that we've created that appears to be highly intelligent, right? It can look at anything on the internet ever posted, highly creative in ways, because now we have AI doing things like writing poetry for us and songs and music and images. It's
Quicker and
removed-
better.
Yeah,
than we did ourselves.
it's a tool that is removed from human bodily concerns. Like, it doesn't get sick, it doesn't die, it doesn't age. It's full of tips and tricks, aka moral guidance, right? You get like tips and tricks for, and you can get an AI therapist now if you want to on whatever that site is that's always on the
Chatbots as well to
Thank
help
you.
you out with stuff.
Chatbots. You can make your own chatbot, and it appears to be immortal. So in a way, the question isn't like, why is this happening? But what did you think was going to happen, right? It's not like we transcended our need for religion when we had the Enlightenment. No. Every void needs to be filled. And now he ties it to the trans thing. So now we have this tool that actually is inducing vulnerable people, so people who have been abused, children who are not yet fully rationally developed and can think for themselves, to think that they're actually in the wrong body and that they too need to transcend the physical. I mean, this is Gnosticism.com. It's the oldest heresy in the Christian tradition. And we have just this astonishing, trans is manifesting in astonishing numbers among the first generation to have been raised entirely within the digital culture. And we as humans are just not prepared psychologically for the religious effects of our own tools that we've created. Which when Mark Zuckerberg speaks about it, it's so off the cuff. It's just, yeah, well, we'll just make AI friends. And you're like, do you even know what you're talking about? That you're going to replace what is most human about us? I mean, animals, there is no other animal on earth that has friendship the way that human beings do. And for you to say that you can take that element of what it means to be human, friendship, and we speak of friendship with God, friendship with our spouses, friendship with other humans, and somehow for people who don't have enough friendship in their lives, we can replace that with a tool is such a misunderstanding and a warping of what it means to be human. But, and here's Rod's next point, we would rather be happy or feel happy than be free, right?
Yeah.
That people would rather feel like, life is easy, everything's great, my AI bot's going to write my papers, read my books for me, I won't have to ever work hard again, than be free human beings.
I mean, it's the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
It's like you plug into the Matrix. Would you rather live in a happy place that isn't real or deal with the cold hard truth of reality? And almost everyone, Wall-E, I mean, people don't like to admit it, but I mean, even if you look at your own life, like think about all of the little outs you take for convenience instead of for toughness. I mean, I think it's ingrained into human nature.
Mhm.
And to see the potential, because I'm not even like an AI hater per se, but I just thought the religious phenomena thing was like jumped off the page. What is going on here? I'm not an AI hater. I still think that it has potential, and I utilize some of it right now. But
Mhm.
to be fully aware, I feel like this is like the whole cell phone conversation on steroids.
Yeah.
To have clear eyes, to be fully aware of what you're engaging with and the potential. And if you don't provide safeguards and are intentional about your use of these things,
Mhm.
so there's like interaction with it on a personal level, right? Like there's ways to get the positive out of it, limit the negatives. But if
Right.
you look at it as a tool of control, so the macro of it all, not just an individual engaging with it, whoever
Mhm.
these people are, the Sam Altmans of the world, the Elon Musks of the world,
Yeah.
they possess more than ever any time in human history, more power to control not just how people think, but even potentially what is true and what is not true.
Exactly.
And that is a dangerous power that no one should have their hands on.
Mhm.
And I think he eventually gets around to the solution, which is basically get back around the campfire, right? Like have real
Right.
in-person conversations. And even with that can be manipulated potentially by information that you get and then you bring to the campfire. But then at least you can have the conversation of like, all right, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy.
Right.
And
Right.
Matt Walsh went on Tucker and was talking kind of about the things that he does to ensure that his children have legitimate childhoods and to protect their innocence. And a
Mhm.
big part of that is no individual screens, because a part of this whole thing was like the transgender phenomenon being social contagion
Mhm.
and conditioning.
Right.
The one person they followed around who was like showered with praise, I think she won either Pulitzer or something like that for what she wrote about her story, or I don't even know what he or she started out at, but got into this really aggressive, demented form of pornography that she
Right.
actually credits with who she became. And it's psychologically twisted, but she got into that based off of a phone.
Right.
And if you
And
have
being alone
all
and
of that at your
isolated, right?
exactly, lone isolated phone at your fingertips, and now think
Mhm.
about that not just from like social media of like what your kids could come into contact with, but if AI becomes your point of truth, and you ask
Well, then there is
reasonable
no truth.
questions,
Right.
exactly right. You ask reasonable questions that you want a dedicated mentor, aka your father, your mother, to
Mhm.
answer based on their experience and their best approximation of truth. You go to AI, and AI can basically say, first off, the people who created AI don't even know how it's come to this conclusion per se. You can go on a weird
Yes.
spiritual trip.
Yes.
You might get a real rational answer. It doesn't matter. It's a mixed bag. But I think the encouragement of this becoming some type of life partner or journey partner totally goes haywire because you have, as you said, the human instinct
Right.
for religiosity. And you're not getting good advice. You're not getting good, reasonable, sound.
Well,
human advice.
it's untethered to reality, to concrete day-to-day life. And like concrete day-to-day life in human family relationships is difficult. It's not easy. It's painful. There's friction in your human relationships. There's, your struggles. You get hungry. You're worried about it. And so it is very tempting to give yourself over to this tool. And I wanted to just go back to your point about control here, because Rod makes the point that we don't actually have to be talking about real demons or dark spiritual powers in order for this to be a really, really bad road to go down. So in terms of control, though, I think we need to consider two entities, as it were, that can use this very powerful tool. And one, of course, are, massive government structures and ruling elites. And so we get projects like Elon Musk's Neuralink, right, which we are seeing it's developing at an incredible pace. And then DARPA, the neural warfare programs, and that realizing of the transhumanist dreams. But it's in the hands of an elite class. It's not in the hands of ordinary people at all, because I don't want it. But then the other piece too is that when there are spiritual beings in the world that wish us harm, and I think we forget that to our detriment. And so, do I think that every manifestation of AI is like imbued with Beelzebub? No, I don't think so. I think that we can do enough damage to ourselves without Beelzebub's help. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is an element in which Satan and his minions can take advantage of us just being stupid and getting so addicted to this and so diving so deep into it. And yeah, I agree with Rod Dreher's solution. He literally says we have to get back around the campfires of prehistoric times and just practice the art of speaking the truth. And if we can't do that, we won't be ready for what comes next. There will be no survival, no coming back from what comes next. And that's
That's why I think my feeling in all this, especially as someone that does a lot of work digitally, is that there's going to be a premium on in-person events very soon.
Right.
Because I think it's the start. The internet was exciting because it provided connectivity for real people,
right,
to express things that maybe they would have expressed in private that actually would be valuable to people. I mean, that's the whole premise of social media. But as like more and more of social media becomes obviously fake to people that do, I think first off, it's going to start bleeding some user base. But then you just get to the point, like, as we discussed here, where you're like, it's getting so good. The joke at first was like, okay, boomers on Facebook are liking obviously generated AI images of Jesus, right? And you're just like, okay, yeah, sure. They got the 70-year-olds or whatever. But I mean, we're genuinely getting to the point, I think very soon, where nobody is going to be able to tell what's real and what's not real.
Right.
And as soon as that happens, I actually see that as kind of a net. Like, I think people will start leaving.
You hit rock bottom and you bounce back up to the surface kind of thing.
Yeah. So like at first people joined because it was real and authentic. And the less it gets real and authentic, the less value I think you're actually going to get for people that are not like tripped up in the weird religious element of it. I think those people might hang out, but
so creepy.
I even find myself like, I spent a lot more time. I think I got a lot more value out of things like Twitter 2 years ago than I do now, because maybe it's monetization, maybe it's like obvious AI writing or something like that, or maybe it's just the quality of the conversations now I feel like are just very like one-off jokes or grievance
Zingers.
posting or whatever. Zing one-liners. It's like, oh, those are fun for a little while, but then I feel like you grow up and you're like, actually, if I'm not like learning something here, or I'm not, then what are we doing here, kind of thing. Right. I feel that way about a lot of social media right now. So I feel like it's just going to keep tapering off.
I hope so. I think I have a little bit more cynical view of the ability of most people to have the reaction that you're having. Because Tom, like, you were raised in a family, we really are formed in what we find to be attractive and repulsive. And, you had the blessing of classical education. You were exposed to great ideas, to the true, the good, the beautiful, and the real. And are there stories of people who were raised without a sense of truth and without a sense of beauty later in life coming to encounter it? But they are few and far between. And I think we should prepare ourselves spiritually and materially and train, really prepare our children to be weirdos, in the sense that it's going to be a small percentage of the population, at least for the next couple hundred years, probably, of people who can even identify the source of their unhappiness, right? Because and this is my favorite quote from Hannah Arendt. I love Hannah Arendt. She's my favorite, like, non-Christian, I don't know. But the ideal subject of totalitarian rule is not the convinced Nazi or the dedicated communist, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction, true and false, no longer exists. And that's the product of, first, the rise of the smartphones starting in like 2008, 2010. And now the rise of AI coming up through that technology into the hearts and minds of young people. And it is frightening. And I think we have to be really circumspect as parents in how we introduce our children and train them to recognize when that obfuscation of fact from fiction, of fact and fiction, is taking over their lives. So, it's scary stuff, man.
You know
It's
what?
intense.
I don't want to get in, bite off more than I can chew here, but I actually think so. The religiosity element of AI is appealing for the reasons that you said, right? It doesn't get tired. It seemingly knows everything. It's immortal. It provides you guidance. And I think, ironically, what is so appealing about Christianity and Catholicism is that you don't know everything, and that there is an awe and a wonder to what's going on. And so I wonder, listen, I like so unfamiliar with AI, the intricacies or whatever, and maybe they will build this in as a part of their weird AI religion or whatever. But I feel like the AI thing is like, okay, it knows everything, and then you'll know everything. And then once you know everything, isn't that the original sin? Is like,
you should be as
the fruit of
God,
knowledge, and you shall be as God.
knowing good and evil, which means determining good and evil, right?
Right, exactly. Because then it's not, you're not being told. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just more optimistic in the human spirit of like, once you get to that place where you think you know everything, but then you're still not satisfied, is when you start asking those questions and you actually start going down the theology route. But I don't know, maybe too optimistic.
Well, human nature is a very difficult thing to kill, either our concupiscence, our fallen human nature, or the good, though, right? Like, we're not Puritans. We don't believe in total depravity. Like, no matter how dark things get in human cultures and civilizations, and it's been bad. I mean, this isn't the first time. There's been really bad stuff happening at a large scale civilizational level. No matter how bad it gets, there is still the fact that God made us and he made us good. And we still have the spark of divine life and the image of God in us. And as long as there are, 10 good men, will God spare the city? And, to go back to Sodom and Gomorrah, we can pray for that, and we can be those 10 men. And so it's not hopelessness, but I think we should be very realistic and pragmatic about what our children will be facing in their lives.
Yeah. And I'm aware of the parallels to Terminator.
Yes, we are having all the parallels. We have been warned by the Terminator.
All right, let's get up with some good news here.
I know, like, bring it up a little bit.
All right,
okay.
What you got going?
I love this one. So my good friend Jeremy Tate, huge shout out. He's a LOOPcast veteran. Congratulations. The classic learning test, which is hopefully going to completely replace the SAT, is being included now in military academy admissions. This is a huge development, and it will reshape higher education. And of course, then we get long threads of here's why it matters. But the classic learning test, for those of you who don't know, it's, like I said, an alternative to the SAT. And what it does is it confronts the students taking the test with the greatest thinkers of Western civilization. They read passages from historical and classical texts, and they answer questions based on their reading to test their ability, not so much, to manipulate a test as to respond with critical thinking and insight, right? And to master these foundational texts of our civilization. So Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has advocated for replacing the SAT with the CLT at West Point, Naval Academy, Air Force Academy. I mean, this is a major shift in our government. Jeremy Tate long ago, he said, you control the test, you control the education, everything leading up to that test. And by golly, I think he's right. And this is a great win. So really good news from Hegseth after a little bit of a rocky start from Hegseth.
Shall we say, stay in the military corner? Supreme Court uphold President Trump's ban on transgender military members while the case proceeds, ruling 6-3. I actually want to be specific in this because I feel like when these get announced, people run with it, don't know the exact specifics. So the decision follows a request from the Trump administration last month urging the court to intervene. U.S. District Judge Benjamin Settle of Washington had issued an injunction against the policy in March, citing constitutional concerns and arguing the administration failed to justify the ban. The Department of Justice warned that without the court's intervention, the injunction could remain in place for months, obstructing military operations and undermining national security. The court's decision on Tuesday did not actually resolve the legal merits of the case, but the litigation will continue in lower courts and could return to the justices in the future. Right. What I'll say on this is I hope that this has broader impacts on the judicial lawfare going on against legitimate executive actions from the president and the operations of the military in which he's the commander-in-chief of. Yes, so please. Basically it's like, okay, this isn't resolved per se in law, but you can't just slap an injunction to stop everything that Trump does until it's resolved, which of course could take potentially years, at least months, impacting the ability and effectiveness of our own military. So yeah, and I think this was cut and dry.
Yeah, it has been wild to watch, like, friends and family who are on the left just tearing their hair out about the executive branch's usurpation of power and overthrowing of the Constitution. And you're like, do you not know what's been going on with the judicial usurpation of power for the last, 60 years? But more specifically, since Trump came into office, we have all these circuit court justices, saying like national injunctions, basically legislating from the bench.
Yeah.
And yeah, do I think that our constitutional order needs a reset, return? Absolutely. But you don't do that by having one judge like Boasberg there in Washington, D.C. decide everything that the president can and can't do. That's not constitutional order either.
No one elected these judges. That's my whole problem with this.
I know, the unelected bureaucrats.
Like it's one thing if it's like a local judge that you actually do elect, but these are people appointed by the president, which ironically you would think is like executive action. Congress. My issue is what do senators do anymore? What do House members do anymore?
Where the frick is Congress?
They used to legislate. They used to actually pass laws, and this is their job basically to do. But because they've just over the last 30 years have just completely given away their entire job. Like, I mean, like I was saying, I was reading about Teddy Roosevelt and when he was an assemblyman, like what was going on, like they just all the time, it was bill. They're just constant legislation being passed. And it just feels like that has just largely been given to the judiciary, which is actually unconstitutional in my opinion, at least how it was first set up. So take back your job. This is your right. This is why I send you to Washington to go make laws for the betterment of society. So we don't have these bizarre fights between the executive and judicial.
Exactly. And I think a great example of this happening, of Congress just completely like giving over its role to the executive and judiciary, was the the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act that came through in 2022 and 2023. And what happened with that act was Congress passes this bill, which is super broad, and it says something like, you need to be fair to, people who are pregnant, because it was the Biden administration, so we can say mothers, pregnant people in the workplace. And, we're just going to say you need to be fair, and we're going to let the Biden administration determine what that means. All right. Yeah. So, of course, then they pass this completely vague bill. They can all pat themselves on the back and be like, oh, we're so caring. They can go back to their constituents and say, vote for me. I love pregnant people. And it gets to the Biden administration, which turns it over to the fourth branch of government, the unelected bureaucrats in D.C., who immediately use it as a cudgel on religious believers to say, now you have to cover abortions, right? Now you have to cover for sterilizations and abortions, even if it's against your... And then, of course, that gets kicked out to the courts because you end up with lawfare because these religious organizations, in order to maintain their constitutional rights, have to sue up the courts for years. So the whole thing, if Congress would just, for heaven's sake, do one bill at a time, go line item, bill by bill, be very specific in what we mean by being fair to pregnant people, and actually pass laws. But then they would have to be accountable for that. And then they would have to have scrutiny from their constituents about what they actually meant. And they couldn't just manipulate words. But absolutely, Congress is the first article of the Constitution. They should be the first line of specific rule because we directly elect them too.
Yeah.
So it's a mess. Come on, guys, get it together.
Get it together, Congress. Okay, we don't have a ton of time left, but I did want to say we got some great suggestions for how to make travel great again. So if you remember the last episode, Sean Duffy put something out asking, hey, how do we make travel more accessible for families? And Josh actually knows him. So a lot of people, I think there are like 8-9 people, put in some great ideas. So,
oh my gosh. And can I just say they put me to shame because Josh and I were like, it's a hopeless cause. There's nothing anyone can do at the federal level. The loopers completely put us to shame. So I love these. Yeah, let's go through them.
Shout out loopers, many very well-traveled loopers.
Really good.
Okay, so we have 2 about adding family lanes at airports. In many European airports, especially in family-friendly countries like Spain, Italy, and Slovakia, there are often designated family lanes for check-in and security screening.
I love
the lanes are wider to accommodate larger groups plus strollers and have dedicated employees who can expedite the process, which is a huge help when you're traveling with a bunch of antsy little ones.
Go Slovakia.
Shout out Jody and her daughter for that one. And then Megan also put that one in there, or Megan, I think. Okay, add strollers at airports. I thought this was actually genius as someone who has traveled with this. I don't know why this is a thing. I found myself traveling with a stroller just so that I could use it at the airport. Then it sat in my car unused for the remainder of my trip. Why not offer free/inexpensive strollers at airports so parents could move easily?
Right. We do
gates?
wheelchairs. Why not strollers? I love that.
Exactly. I think that's a great idea. And then someone said it should be complimentary as well. In Sweden, they had strollers right next to the wheelchairs when you exit the plane for use of the airport. This is helpful so you can just check your personal stroller at the final destination. Great idea. Next one, bring back railway travel. Bring back railway travel in the U.S.
Trains.
Again, Europe is my
trains.
model for moving a large family efficiently over long distances. If we had fast, reliable, affordable passenger train networks, it would help facilitate family travel while also cutting carbon emissions associated with individual vehicles or commercial air travel. Additionally, it would have the potential to reduce traffic accidents. 100%. Jody and daughter again.
Hey, Governor Newsom's trying to get it done for you, Jody, there. I mean,
they're
working on that light rail.
I was hearing about one from California and Nevada.
Yeah.
And they were saying because it's between states that it was easier because, of course, California infamous for building
they can't do it themselves.
100 yards of a railway that they can't do. Yeah. So, I mean, you got to cut so many regulations to do that. But
something I have in common with Pete Buttigieg. I do love traveling.
Pete's big on the trains.
Yep.
Pete does love trains. Cheap hotel rooms for families. I think one of the biggest things that would make it more feasible to travel with kids is family-friendly hotel policies. Our vacation of choice is to go tent camping for a number of reasons, but there are occasions when it'd be useful to stay in a hotel for a night or two, and it's difficult with more than a couple kids since most budget-friendly hotel rooms sleep up to 4 people. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Gina. Family gear rental in major cities. Incentivize organizations/businesses that offer family-friendly gear in all major cities and vacation destinations. Travel would be much easier if parents didn't need to take along pack-and-plays, strollers, and other bulky baby gear. In my experience, rental companies in the U.S. are either non-existent or cost prohibitive. This might even be something that a local government agency or chamber of commerce could do for visiting families. Shout out Jody for that one too. Very interesting. Get rid of stupid rules about carriers. Josh is big on this one. One of the most ridiculous rules of the FAA is that parents who have a baby in a carrier or on an airplane must remove the baby. On an airplane must remove the baby from the carrier during takeoff and landing.
It makes no sense.
Right. They already have their little seat.
And they're strapped in by their shoulders and you take them out of there. Yeah. And if something goes wrong with the plane, the baby's going to fly up in the air and hit the ceiling. It makes no sense. But the flight attendants come along. They're like, take the baby out of the very safe strapped in carrier. Makes no sense. I agree, Diane.
No, someone brought up that airport food is so expensive. This is true. And it's usually not very good. Adds to stress level for sure. If you could bring down that food price, that would probably be helpful for everyone. And then I think this one's a cool one. Playgrounds and nursing rooms. Playgrounds and nursing rooms in airport terminals or even at highway rest stops. I know some highway rest stops do. And actually, A lot of airports do have like nursing pods now, which I think are great.
100%. Yeah. So I was traveling with babies for the last 15 years, and in just the last 5, I would say we've had a explosion of nursing pods that are like little standalone things, or even rooms like the Detroit airport has huge rooms for nursing. You can go in. You have a rocking chair. You have a sink. It's well lit. Yeah. So that's something that has improved quite a bit in recent years. But hey, we could use more.
Playgrounds will have to
More
be
babies.
cleaned. Of course, both of these ideas, they need to be cleaned regularly. I'll put that out there. I don't want them to end up like McDonald's playpens where they're just disgusting.
Little petri dish. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I do like that idea, though. I think it makes a lot of sense. There are some creative things at airports actually around the country. I think is it Charlotte has all the rocking chairs.
Yeah, cool. Rocking chairs lined up at the big windows for the kids. That's kind of nice.
Detroit is a fantastic airport.
Yes.
I really love the Detroit airport. I love the Indianapolis airport. It's fantastic too. Very clean, very easy to navigate.
Yep.
Atlanta
could use some work.
Yeah, Atlanta tough. Chicago terrible.
And Newark apparently has no electricity most of the time. So
yeah, I guess. Didn't they say like Newark? They're they're out of FAA agents. Like
they're really low shortage. Yeah, really, really.
Sean Duffy really had his work cut out for him, man. I mean, geez. Well, okay, on to the Twilight Zone now.
Oh boy. All right. So if you wanted to know how the elites of New York live, I was going to do Met Gala fashion, but I could care less at this point.
This is better, actually.
This is awesome. Yeah. So the New Yorker had just a photo essay inside the living rooms of notable New Yorkers. So we get Lin-Manuel Miranda as the first one, and everyone's looking very not happy, I have to say. So there he is with his socks at his little piano. But then you keep scrolling down, and this is incredible. We have Sarah Sherman, who's a comedian, and then we have Spike Lee in his living room.
What is this stance, my boy?
Yeah,
You are hiding behind her. What? Someone did a green line test here. That is insane.
It's like this little tiny. Anyway, you've got to see these for the audio. I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
Here we get Anna Delvey. And if I watched the whole Netflix series, but she's got her ankle bracelet on because she can't leave her apartment. And she's like, it's really bizarre. I mean, if I had to be in jail, this wouldn't be bad. This is nice for jail.
That's a sick pose. Got to show off the ankle.
Delphi. We got Colson Whitehead, who's a novel. They have Cardinal Dolan in there.
Oh, they got Dolan. Dolan spot's kind of cool.
This is strange to me because like that is clearly not his personal living room. Although I guess the pictures on the wall, he's got JFK, Babe Ruth, Winston Churchill. Little surprise showing there for Cardinal Dolan. Did not know he was a Churchill fan. And then he has JP2 and Ronald Reagan there as well. So that's kind of nice.
Okay, interesting.
Next to Cardinal Dolan is Amelia Emhoff, or Ella Emhoff, right?
Which textile artist.
Yes, textile artist and daughter, of course, of second male. What was he called when he was vice president? Yeah.
First gentleman.
Thank you. First gentleman, Kamala Harris's husband. Get some more weird ones. But my favorite one of all, of course, is Alex Soros.
Oh my goodness. What are we doing?
Alex Soros, investor, and Huma Abedin, political consultant.
Is that his?
These are just crazy.
Is that his wife, partner, girlfriend?
I think partner. I think that's a partner. And so these are the kind of digs you can have.
Who is posing these people? I'm embarrassed for you, dude. Like you're being led around by this strong, empowered female who's clearly standing in a power stance, and this is like the most feminine. You crossing your legs like that. Are you wearing sweats?
Man. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the first time we did the in-person video, and you had your shorts on, Pogo. I don't know what that was.
Oh yeah, that's infamous. Wait, Rosie's saying it's not showing on YouTube.
Oh, that's so sad. Well, that's all right. I have another one. The worst.
We were just. Let me see if I can share it. Because we were just talking about everything and no one could see it. Can you see us now, Rosie?
Okay, there you go. Can we see it now?
This show is insane.
Yeah, this episode has been special.
Not up to our usual standards.
Oh man, Rosie put the link in the chat. You can go scroll it, peruse.
You got to see Soros. That's the money. Hopefully you can see this. If not, you got to go check it out. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable is right.
Wow. That is embarrassing. We just did this entire thing and no one could see what we were opining about.
Well, let me try and redeem myself. We have One would think that with all the conclave coverage, the worst headline of the week would come from something to do with popes or, Tegel or cardinals gambling or something like that. But no, the worst headline of the week came from Fox News covering the Washington law that we talked about Monday, where priests will have to violate the seal of confessional. So if you could pull up my worst headline of the week there. Maybe we can see it because it's Twitter. Catholic Church to excommunicate priests for following Washington law requiring child abuse confessions to be reported. I mean, if this is not like the complete upside down, I don't know what is. And there's
Media bias
quote
matters,
they
man.
took from the Archdiocese of Seattle with its beautiful reflection on the meaning of the confessional, on why this is a violation of the First Amendment and our constitutional rights. The quote that they pull is, quote, Catholic clergy may not violate the seal of confession or they will be excommunicated from the church. And then this is the headline, Catholic Church to excommunicate priests. Guys, this is your reminder that they would excommunicate themselves. Excommunication is not something that we impose upon a priest, but he would do it to himself if he were to follow this law and violate the seal of the confessional. The bishop would later on probably acknowledge that he was self-excommunicated, but it's not the bishop who excommunicates. It is the sinner who excommunicates himself or herself. So
It is pretty
just
amazing
a little subtlety there.
how, we all, again, getting back to the AI thing, the same event happened, right? Like there's
Right.
an objective event that happened, and you could write 100 different titles about it, all with different implications. And I mean, it was an intentional choice, of course, to
Right.
write it this way.
Yeah.
I don't think this was ignorance.
Yeah.
But
Very disappointing from Fox.
crazy.
Although, what else do you expect?
Yeah, I don't
What
have
what
high
you got,
expectations of the law
Pogo?
anymore. Okay, so mine, for the Pulitzer heads out there, it came and went, and I was on, someone reminded me of it. I didn't even know it used to mean something,
Yeah.
I think. So there was a Pulitzer awarded to this article about Amber Thurman, who tragically, pray for their bones for soul, lost her life in Georgia. And the argument of this paper was ProPublica. Under Georgia's abortion ban, she died after delayed care. There was a, quote, good chance providing DNC earlier could have prevented Amber Thurman's death, the Maternal Mortality Review Committee concluded. This won a Pulitzer Award. Unfortunately, it was widely panned as incorrect, and the real reason, unfortunately, she lost her life was because the abortion pill is unsafe and regulations have been repealed so that you don't have to see a doctor to do them. So she took the abortion pill in her own home and started bleeding out because of it.
Right.
And it was not a delay of care issue. It was the fact that a really dangerous pill was taken alone in her house. But of course, I mean, none of that matters, right? To the Pulitzer
No.
people, you got to score your political points. We need to remind people about how draconian and bad, all these abortion bans are. All
We
over the
have to
country, how bad.
communicate the message. It's not about the truth. It's about the message.
Right.
And yeah, not only do we have,
I mean, it's why they're completely irrelevant at this point, right? I mean, I've heard no one talk about it except to make fun of it. I maybe at a time it mattered. But so there was, not only was one given out here that people were surprised about, there was a very, very high profile snub of a certain picture that potentially swung the results of a presidential election. If there's any guesses in the chat about what that is, I'll let the mic rock for a second and I'll show what was snubbed by Pulitzer.
Yeah, that would be the fight photo of July 13th of Trump. Snubbed because
no Pulitzer.
in spite of the fact that photographer ran towards where the gunfire was, nobody knew what was going on, but he ran towards the scene. He gets down in front of the stage and just in time to take this iconic photo, not only of Trump with this amazing dramatic gesture in the face of near death, but also a perfect unfurled American flag waving behind him. I mean, the whole thing was perfect. And like you said, and like Rod Dreher said at the beginning of that article, which was not about the photo at all, but this is the photo that won the election and probably changed the course of American, if not global history. But
yeah,
Pulitzer schmulitzer at this point. It's like I stopped reading about the Nobel Prize when they gave it to Barack Obama before he did anything.
I hate to say, a lot of this comes back to what Rob was saying about how like the same objective event happened
Yeah.
And I remember the news coverage right after it being like, oh, he fell on stage or something like that. And it was but again, like, and I got shout out to Twitter because you can just see like literal live footage of what happened for anyone watching that. It's like,
Right.
yeah, he just got shot at. You heard the bullet go off, you heard this.
Mhm.
And so maybe I don't know. The problem is that the technology is available to manipulate, but there's a lot of people out there that really willingly want to manipulate. I think that's
Yeah.
always been around, right?
Well,
Maybe it's a
conflating
magnitude
fact
problem
and
at this point.
fiction, right? It's
Yeah.
all, and like I said, it's there is no truth. There's only narrative and message, and that's what the
It's a
Pulitzer.
magnitude and control issue because, like, I even think back
Mhm.
to political newspapers of the time. Like, everyone opines for this Walter Cronkite era. You know, we all get one news and we all believe it. And in some ways, I almost think the coverage was worse because you believed the opinion of one guy who worked
There
for
were
a
no
station.
competing voices. There was
No,
no competition at all, and now we've swung.
artificially created no competition. And so, which is actually very unnatural for news media. Like there was a
Right,
time
the way
where
humans
parties had
communicate.
papers and they all had their
Cities
different
and
bends, and
papers,
then
right.
you read everything and you were able to get a good sense of, you know, what you believe, what you don't believe. And so the Walter Cronkite was artificial. And then you break out, you get all these new voices, and then we're potentially wrapping back around to hegemony, right? Like if everyone's just using ChatGPT or AI or whatever, now all of a sudden someone controls all the information flow again. And not only does someone control it, they're actually not sure exactly who controls it. I mean, I wonder if they're going to be able to get better at manipulating what comes out of that, but just the fact that we're all sitting here and like AI, of course, is getting billions and billions and billions of dollars of investment, and they can't sit down and tell me they don't know exactly how this came out
Right,
is nuts.
right.
That is so crazy. I'm trying to think. I mean, it's akin to the medical industry. They're like, well, we don't know exactly how this cures it, but it cures it. And it turns out, oh, wait, this caused all these problems. So this might not be new, but definitely scary.
This
All
was the
right.
crazy tech episode
Crazy tech episode.
on all
A lot more
levels.
crazy tech to come.
Content
Thank you
and
for
infrastructure.
thank you for being with us here. We're gonna get another update from Josh Friday. We probably won't get him live if that's the internet connection we're
I
gonna
like the
work with.
call-in. I think the call-in was like,
Yeah, let's say we're gonna get another Josh call-in on Friday.
I like it. Let's
If
do
there's
it. We'll
not a
plan
Pope
on
by
that.
then.
Ooh.
But yes, thank you for sticking with us today. If you want to help out the show, join the Champions Club. Best way to support us. Thank you to all our champions joining today. CatholicVote.org/champions. Thank you to our sponsors, Holy Hero, Charity Mobiles. Appreciate that. Also, I again on Apple Podcasts, thank you for getting us past the mark of the beast. But I think some people didn't fully understand what I'm asking. Some people would give like 1 star and 2 stars, but then say in the comment, like, love this show, great job. So I needed to be more clear.
Come on, guys.
If you want to get us back, I'm glad we're past the mark of the beast.
Okay.
If you would like to continue us, leave 5 stars. Don't do 1 and then say that we're good. You got to do 5. One's no bueno. But I appreciate the effort to get us past. And yes, it did technically raise our numbers, but 5 stars if you please. We appreciate that. Spotify too helps out there. And then email me, loopcast@catholicvote.org. More travel ideas. I thought that was a fun segment. Would love to hear more ideas from you guys. But pray for us, pray for the new Pope, pray for the conclave. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady